Welcome to Super Gamer. Welcome to Super Gamer Classic. That's because this week, or this past week, when I would have been doing a new show, I had COVID. Thankfully, it wasn't super bad for me, but, it was bad enough. I was sick, and wasn't really up for doing any work. So we're throwing it back to a way back episode, way before the new Super Gamer podcast. You may have just heard a shake. That's because my cat is in the room, and he is begging for attention, which we will give him soon. But first, this introduction. This episode is from 2018. It was super fun because it was on location. I love doing things on location. It was in my hometown, Winnipeg, for the Manitoba Pinball League. Very cool people. Pinball's great, and it was fun to see a thriving pinball community here in Manitoba. So let's just get right to it. There will be a new episode next week. Hopefully you enjoy this look back at the podcast from 4 years ago. Moss, say hello. Here with David Morris, the commissioner of the Manitoba Pinball League, which I just recently learned was a thing. And we were having I think I was reading up about it, or we were having a quick correspondence before, and I guess pinball's kind of having a resurgence. What's going on here?
You bet it is. We started the league back in just over a year ago now, in February 2017, and we kicked things off with a big bang at the Goodwill Social Club last year with our first tournament. We had over 52 people register and play in the tournament. We had 15 playable games in the first tournament, and we grew from there. We started the league right after that, or the league started before, but our first we hold both league nights and tournaments, which are similar but different. And our league has been going really strong, and tournaments have been going really strong as well. And we recently just started a women's league as well, and that's been starting off really well as well.
That's cool. So we're at 4th right now, not at the Goodwill. Is this the new permanent venue, or?
Unfortunately, no. This is just a temporary, we call it a pop-up pinball expo here in Winnipeg. It's here until the end of April, and so we are happy to have 21 playable games here until the end of April, and we're looking forward to hosting many events here.
That's cool. So what led to this? Is it a worldwide resurgence? Is it just Manitoba that's getting back into pinball? Or?
No, absolutely. It is definitely a worldwide thing. It started off, pinball never really died. A lot of people think it did. It's funny talking to many people, they didn't even know that they still make brand new pinball machines. And yes, they very much do. And it's been definitely resurging over the last 10 years. And it started out people like me buying games and putting them in your basement. And then all of a sudden, it started to splash outside of that. You started to see a lot of these barcades or venues coming back in the cities that have both video games and pinball machines on location. And it's become really strong, and it's growing all the time. And every city I go to, they seem to have one, and along with a league. And I realized that we don't have one in Manitoba. Nobody wanted to start one, so I figured I had to. And that's where we are.
How good are you at pinball?
I consider myself a decent player. I'm definitely not the best, but I'm probably not the worst either.
Right. Are there cabinets that, like the Terminator one or the Addams Family, are there must-haves in the pinball world?
For me, absolutely, yeah. The Addams Family is a big one for me. Funhouse is another one. I love Terminator 2. Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters is really good, and that crazy new Dialed In that we have here at 4th is a fantastic game. I can't stop playing that one. But there's lots of different ones. Twilight Zone, Theater of Magic, the list can go on and on. World Cup Soccer. Monster Bash, Medieval Madness.
What makes one harder than the other, or like how do they differ? The only thing I can think off the top of my head when I play, I'm like, ugh, is the outer, I don't even know what you call them, but the holes on the left and right that the ball just falls down and you don't even get a flipper, right?
Right. The outlanes, drains, you might be calling. So they vary quite a bit. A lot of people don't know that pinball can be very deep. There's a lot of rules put into that pinball machine that maybe you're not quite aware of at first. A lot of people just walk up, put a quarter in or loonie in and start playing, not realizing that there's a bunch of rules involved. And it starts on the left lower part of the apron. There's a little instruction pad instructing you on kind of the basic things that you need to do. So it might be shoot down a set of targets, which will light lock, and then you shoot that saucer, and then you'll have one ball locked towards multi-ball. You do that 3 times, you get multi-ball. In multi-ball, if you shoot one ramp, you get a jackpot. If you get that ramp, you then have to alternate to the other ramp to get the other jackpot. So there's lots of things involved in pinball, and they keep getting deeper and deeper as the years go on. And it's a tricky thing, though, because the designers in pinball, they really want to make games deep for guys like me that live and breathe pinball, but they also want it to be easy enough for people that are new to pinball to walk up and say, like, hey, I can do that, I can get multi-ball, and really enjoy themselves too. So and that's what I love about pinball is there's an experience for everyone in it. And it's so much deeper than just whacking those flippers.
Right.
There's in pinball, like in video games, everyone calls the end game. Like when you get to level 85 or 90 in World of Warcraft, I don't even know what it is anymore, but you know what I mean, something like that. Well, in pinball, it's we call that the wizard mode. So when you get to the end game on a pinball machine, we call it the wizard mode. And a lot of pinball machines now will have multiple wizard modes. So if you do this, and this, then it'll enable that. And then if you do that, then you do this, and this again, then you can do a different something. And then it is a fabulous thing. And there's so many modes and that you may not even know until you start getting to know the machine. The more quarters or dollars you put into play, the more you know the machine, and you'll start to figure out things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So it's a little more than just high score. There's actually places to go in the game.
Absolutely. And there'll be there might be 10 different ways to put your name on a pinball machine. So one obviously would be high score. So the top 5-6 scores will get your name on the pinball machine, your initials. But there might also be a loop champion, whoever shoots the most loops, or like in Medieval Madness, there's a damsel champion, whoever saves the most damsels. There's joust champion, whoever jousts the most. There's all kinds of things like that they do to try and make it more adventurous for the player and more enjoyable and more rewarding at the same time.
Is there a strategy to your launch? Is there something more than just hit it as hard as you can? There
definitely is, but it also depends very heavily on the game. Some games, it doesn't matter how hard you launch the ball, it'll go into an area, and then you use the flippers to choose which lane it goes down, and then you get what's called a skill shot. Whereas other games, it might depend on how hard you plunge the ball to get the ball to go where you want it to go, to shoot something, to get a super skill shot, which might be worth more points. So there's all sorts of different things like that that they put into the game. And that's something that the new player isn't going to know right off the bat. That's something that they're going to learn by just playing more and more.
Do you play at all pinball on a console version of pinball, and what gets lost between that and the physical thing?
I do play pinball. I have the Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball on my PlayStation, and I love them both. I do play them. I actually am more of a portable gamer when it comes to video games. I'm one of those weird guys that still has and plays a PlayStation Vita, and I play the Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball on there, and there's all the Pinball Arcade is recreations of real games, whereas Zen Pinball is or Pinball FX on Xbox is new games that aren't real games. They just create them for the video game world, and it's going really strong, and they are fun. But to answer your question, gets lost? The feel of the game is just not the same. And they do a lot of things really well, don't get me wrong. When you play, it's definitely a great way to learn the rules on a game. So if I'm going to enter a tournament and I know Medieval Madness is going to be in the tournament and I'm not sure how to play that game, I can go to Pinball Arcade, download Medieval Madness, and it'll walk you through all of the rules and tell you, okay, if you do this, then that happens. If you do this, and that, then this happens. So it's a really good tool for both new players to learn what games they like in pinball, and experienced players like myself that may not get to play that expensive game anytime to learn how to play that game. It's really cool. But at the end of the day, it's something like playing pinball is something that you can't replicate on a video game, in a video game context, in a console. And anybody that's played a lot of pinball will agree with me. It's just a total different experience. Like, you become one with the machine when you play pinball. It's hard to explain, but you learn, and every game is different. You know, there might be two Medieval Madnesses side by side, but one will play completely different than the other one. You know, You learn things like how the ball bounces off of this rubber, or how the ball bounces off this flipper versus the other flipper. So you learn little things like that in a video game, they're recreating those ball geometrics, and they do a good job, but it's just not the same. There's definitely a loss there in doing that.
What is it that's so appealing about ping sounds and blinking lights? Well, I think they are.
Yeah, well, it's very appealing, but a lot of the ping sounds would be more on like the older games, maybe late 70s, early 80s, when electronic games first came into play. Now, like Stern Pinball, Jersey Jack Pinball, Spooky Pinball, they all have LCD screens in their games. So, and stereo sound, and so there's like a full, like, if you play, we have Guardians of the Galaxy here at 4th right now, and if you play that game, like, you get certain modes, like when you start Groot Multi-Ball, like it cuts to a scene from Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and there's like full stereo 80s music going on, and then you see Groot kind of get bombarded there, and then Groot opens up his mouth and spits out 5 balls, and then you're in multi-ball. Like, it's really cool how they do things like that, and something that if you haven't experienced before, you should come check out and try.
Cool. I got 2 more for you. One, I'm going to run this by you and be brutally honest. What do you think of my idea for a VR pinball game where you're the ball?
That would be very interesting. I would try that out for sure. I have played some VR pinball, and it is cool. They've done a good job already. I played I don't know what it's called, but on the cell phone, I think it might be you like put your cell phone in the goggles.
Oh, like the Google Cardboard?
Something like that. And then they downloaded the Stern Pinball Arcade, and I played a game, the new Stern Star Trek pinball machine you could download, and then that was cool because it's almost as if you're playing a real game. Like, when you look down at it, when you move around, you can kind of see art on the walls and stuff, and you look down and it feels like you're playing the real game almost. It's really cool.
That's awesome. And then as far as what we're doing here, this pop-up pinball, how long is this going to go on for? How can people check it out?
People can check it out any day of the week. They're open 7 days a week. We follow the hours of 4th. So Sundays they're open till 5. Fridays and Saturdays they're open like 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. And during the week they close at 10 on Mondays, and the rest of the days are 1 a.m. or later. So there's plenty of time to come and play. And we are here until the end of April officially. So April 30th is our last day right now.
Awesome.
But we're hoping that might change.
To join the league, where do I go?
To join the league, just come on down. We don't have like an official membership. It's just like you can just show up and play. There's $2 each event to get your name in, and we keep the statistics, and it's all posted to the IFPA website, International Flipper Pinball Association, ifpapinball.com, and all that information gets stored on there, and then we keep track of your points, and then we have playoffs at the end of the year, but there's no commitment. We meet once a month for league night, and then each month we have 2 or 3 tournament events. So if you can make 1 month but not the next, that's okay. It's not a problem. It's just for fun. We're just here to have fun and introduce pinball to new people.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Full name is Kevin Peden.
And are you a member of the Pinball League?
I am a member of the Pinball League. I have been a member since it started last February. I came in for the first event last year, and then over the last year I've come in as much as I could because I used to live 3.5 hours away from the city, so I would try and drive in for as many events as I could. Now I'm living 2.5 hours north of the city, so I come in as often as I can. But
wow, so you travel pretty far to do this?
Yeah, I win the most dedicated award pretty much for anybody in the league because I got the farthest distance to travel. There's a few guys from out of town, like there's a couple from Clan du Bois, there's a couple from Lorette, but I pretty much hold the record for long distance traveling, more or less, of the regulars.
So is it just out of a real passion for pinball?
Basically, when I was younger, I used to play pinball a lot. I can remember the first time I played pinball was at Roxy Bowling Lanes because my parents used to bowl there, and my dad's friend one night put a chair in front of the machine and put a quarter in and put me on the chair, and I remember slapping those buttons and going, this is the greatest thing ever. So I used to play pinball a lot, and then over the years it kind of died off. And then when I heard last year that this was starting up again, I said, well, I had to come to it, and I got a hold of one of my buddies who's in the league here, who's actually one of the top guys in the league. And we went out to the first one, and we haven't looked back. We've been, I think I'm one of the few regulars in the league who doesn't actually own a machine, and I'm desperately trying to fix that. But the ones I want to get are pretty pricey and hard to find, so I'm patient right now. I enjoy coming here, going to the guys' places and playing their machines.
What's the holy grail of pinball machines?
For me or in general?
Either or.
Well, there's quite a few in general. Like if you were to ask some of the guys here, they all have different grails. There's like weird machines, like I think there's one called Orbiter 1 that the playfield's all warped and weird. There's old machines. For me, I have my hierarchy of dream machines. If I could afford and could get one dream machine, it would probably be Twilight Zone. But Adam's Family is right up there. An old one called Gordar. I kind of got to mix a few old ones, a few new ones. Of the really new ones, the only one I found that I really like is Star Wars, although Aerosmith's kind of growing on me. So yeah, but I mean, every person's going to have a different holy grail. Some of the older machines are super rare and super hard to find. So that gives them grail status. Others, it's just the machines they remember when they were a kid. And I remember playing Twilight Zone and Adam's Family when I was young all the time at Polo Park and all the different bowling alleys when they used to have pinball machines. So for me, that's what gets me the machines I remember playing.
What's the any difference that you've noticed, like since when you played as a kid and then now?
Oh, I'm way better now. I pay attention to what I'm doing. Back then it was just hit the ball, hit the ball, hit the ball. And towards the end, once I started getting into my teenage years, I started to be more aware. But now, especially with the internet, you can go online and there's tutorials, there's guys who will walk you through what you have to do to get the high scores and all that. Usually when I come out here to play, I'm mostly just coming to play, but I know there's lots of guys here who spend way more time than me studying, figuring out the machines so they can get the high scores. I kind of like doing that, but I also don't like to have enough of a life that I don't want to sit at home, and I'd rather play the machines than watch other people playing them. So
I never even thought that there would be like pinball walkthroughs.
There are tons of them. There's if you go on YouTube, there's Dead Flip, which is a really popular one. There's the Pop-Up Pinball, which is the Pinball America Players Association or something that's based out of Pittsburgh, that they have a huge tournament every year, and they have a huge space that's not open to the public that's filled with machines, and they regularly do tutorials, and like just watching the way the systems they have set up, like when you're watching those, they've got a camera on the play field, they've got a camera down low so you can see what the shots are, they've got a camera on the player, on the scores, like it's pretty hardcore. It's fun to watch, like you can fall down the rabbit hole watching those for sure.
Have you ever cheated playing pinball? Is there a way to cheat?
Yeah. Depending on the machine? Oh yeah, heck yes, there's ways to cheat, and I've done it a few times. For instance, way back when I was a younger man in my first year in engineering, we had a pinball machine in the engineering lounge called Fire, and we figured out that if you put enough newspaper under the front table legs to kind of level it out, and it had the way the plunger was, when the ball came out, you could push it forward and it would detect it as in play, but would start running up bonuses, and we would just do that and run up about a dozen credits or so, and then we'd play for free the rest of the day. On the newer machines, it's harder to cheat. Cheating usually requires a defect in the machine, but I've tried to do it before. The Star Wars machine that's here, there was one night when it was on another location where the bumpers, when you hit them, would just keep going and going and going and going and going. So I would just play them up to the bumpers and let them run up all night, but then once they figured it out, they turned off the machine and erased my high scores. So I was sad. But now I can get legit high scores. But yeah, there's ways you can cheat, and there's ways you can abuse the machine, like hammer saves, like when the ball comes down and drains, if you hit the machine hard enough, you can pop it back out. There's lots of different techniques the guys know. I'm not as good as many of them at the techniques, and lots of the techniques I'm kind of afraid to do because I know the guys who own these machines and I don't want to break them because they'll be very upset with me. Of course. So, but yeah, there's ways you can abuse it, and there are machines that have known bugs that you can abuse, and there's a couple machines where they even build in cheating. There's one called Jackpot where there's certain points where if you hit a button and keep hitting it, if you hit it fast enough, it'll change your score for you. It'll cheat. So it's kind of fun, but I prefer just trying to play and get better.
What's the maddest you've ever been at a pinball machine?
Well, I haven't really broken one yet, but I have slammed a few machines when I've had really bad nights. Actually, there was last weekend when we were having a tournament here, there was one machine I was playing, and it was basically the top two on the machine advanced and the bottom two got a strike, and I was right close, and I drained it, and I don't think I was going to make it with the bonus, so I just gave it a two-handed slam and tilted the machine. I've tilted a few machines. I'm not as bad as some of the other guys. There's a couple guys who were in the league last season who I think they were politely asked from a couple places not to come back because they were abusing the machines pretty good. I try not to break them, but I have slammed a few in frustration now and again, because sometimes if you get that ball that just goes up and comes straight down and straight out and you can't do nothing, you got to hit something.
Thank you so much.
Better than hitting players.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.